They were all incredibly aggressive and said, no way are we going to do that. You have to sign a UAW-style agreement. You have to give us more concessions. And in the end, your elected leadership decided we had to basically impose a deadline on all three of the companies at the same time. We've never done that before, in order to flush somebody out to step forward and say, okay, we'll start negotiating with you. And that is, in fact, what Ford eventually did, and we negotiated the pattern agreement with Ford, and then eventually the tentative agreement with General Motors that matches those features. The first task, remember, on our to-do list was to fight back the demands for more concessions from the companies, including General Motors, just for historical interest. I want to share with you some of the provisions of GM's first economic offer to us in terms of how aggressive they were. They demanded to eliminate COLA forever, including cutting their wages by the 33 cents that's in the current COLA adjustment and eliminating the language from the contract. They wanted a permanent two-tier wage system starting at $18 an hour. Despite a permanent two-tier system, they actually wanted to keep the Swedes and, in fact, cut their wages by a third, down to $16 an hour. They would only pay overtime after 40 compensated hours in a week, no matter how long your day was. They wanted cash contributions from the existing workforce for the pension today. They wanted to eliminate the defined benefit pension altogether for the new hires. They wanted to defer your 30 and out pension until age 60 minimum, and a whole host of other concession demands that together were worth several dollars an hour. Again, incredible. The industry's turned around. General Motors is making good profit, yet they had the nerve to demand concessions that were as big or bigger than the sacrifices that were made in 2009. And the militants and the solidarity of your bargaining committee is what stopped this demand, which was our first priority. Then we had to look at the whole issue of COLA and inflation protection and how we handled that in a situation where we were worried about our fixed cost level compared to the U.S. and other jurisdictions. If we had run the COLA system the way it normally works with a quarterly wage adjustment, by the end of this contract, that gap, that cost gap in fixed costs versus the Americans, $2 or $3 now, would double by the end of our contract. And so we're taking a small problem and making it bigger as time goes on. So the alternative was to find ways of paying the COLA principal, but in a different form. And this is where we settled on the idea of CPI-linked lump sum bonuses that would be paid out in order to protect the real incomes of our members and deliver some recognition for their sacrifices, but without adding to the automatic fixed cost situation of our Canadian plants. This is kind of a blast from the past, if you like. This is, in fact, how we used to pay COLA in our contracts in the 1960s and 1970s, so it's not unprecedented. How it would work is, instead of the current situation where you get little quarterly adjustments based on how consumer prices change from month to month, okay, instead of that, we would convert those into annual lump sum bonuses. That includes the $3,000 quality and productivity bonus on ratification, and then 3 annual $2,000 CPI-linked bonuses in the last 3 years of the contract. And together, the value in those lump sums is actually greater than the value of the small quarterly wage adjustments that we would have received under a normal COLA arrangement. It was very important, though, very important, while we were adjusting the way COLA is paid, very important for us to keep the COLA language in the contract itself. We would suspend the quarterly wage adjustments, but we would not eliminate the COLA principle from our contract. This is exactly how we handled the problem in 2009 when we suspended COLA for the extension of the agreement, because if we took it out of the language, it would be impossible for us to try to win the COLA principle back. So we left it in the language and arranged for one final quarterly COLA hit to be paid at the end of the contract. That was the COLA adjustment that you saw in your paychecks starting in June. We followed the same principle this time. We suspended it, but it is still in the language and it will come back before the end of this contract. And this is learning the successful lesson of 2009. The other thing to keep in mind was with that one quarterly hit that we did get in June, we kind of hit the jackpot on it. And let me explain why. You know that on a month-to-month basis, your COLA adjustment goes up or down depending on what's happening to the consumer prices. If consumer prices are rising, you get a positive hit. If, in fact, consumer prices fell, as happens every now and then, we would actually get a negative adjustment. This shows the first 3 years of the COLA hits that we gave up when we suspended the COLA. So you see it varies from month to month. Luckily, we gave up this one. That was the very first hit in 2009. That was during the recession when consumer prices were falling. And we actually would have had a negative 45 cents on the COLA if we hadn't suspended it. So that was lucky that we suspended COLA just before COLA started falling. GM was not happy with that. Then we had the ups and downs over the next 3 years. Then comes 2012, and we're going to get the one COLA hit. So the suspense is building. What is that one hit going to be? And as it turned out, we lucked out. In the first quarter of 2012, the COLA would have been 0. In the second quarter, the one that was paid, it turned out to be 28 cents. And then in the third quarter, it would have been 0 again. So we really threaded the needle. And I would like to claim that Chris Buckley predicted it all, that the one COLA hit in June 2012 was going to deliver 28 cents, a very decent hit. But basically, I'd be bullshitting you if I claimed that. The reality was it was luck, but it was good luck, and the companies weren't happy with it. 28 cents is twice as large as the usual COLA hit. Every one of the companies in June, remember, demanded that we not get it. Even though it was in the contract, it was the quid pro quo for freezing our COLA for 3 years, and then they complained that we were going to get the COLA hit in June. And that 33 cents, because we required that it be kept in as per the contract that we agreed to, is going to be worth a significant amount of cash over time. The reason companies hate COLA, it's a little bit each hour, but it's every hour of every day, of every week, of every month, of every year of the contract. And it would add up to about $27.50 over the 4 years of this contract, that 33 cents. When the companies demanded that we give them back the 33 cents, and every one of the companies did demand that, the union texted their response. For any of you who use text talk or instant messaging talk, this is the message that we sent back to the company. If you don't know what that means, ask your teenager. And at the end, the company kept the 33 cents in. In addition to keeping this extra bonus, if you like, from the 33 cents, we also have this idea of the C.A.W. wage bonus. Remember, since our union was founded, we've emphasized slow, steady increases when we can get them in our wages, rather than profit sharing and some of the other gimmicks that are out there. And as a result, today our base wages are $6 an hour higher than they are in the United States. Now, lots of the reporters ahead of the bargaining said, oh, well, profit sharing is this big new fad. Is the C.A.W. going to go for it? First of all, it's not a fad. It's been around since 1983. It's 30 years old. And during those 30 years, the average annual profit sharing in the United States has worked out to 32 cents an hour. That includes good years and bad years, more bad years than good years. In contrast, our strategy has delivered $6 an hour, money that we can count on, pay the bills on, and raise a family on. GM wasn't interested in offering profit sharing. There was no debate here. They would give us profit sharing if we cut our wages by $6 an hour, but why would we do that? That $6 an hour, remember, is worth over $12,000 a year. So that's another C.A.W. bonus, if you like, that's built into the strategy of our contract, along with that COLA adjustment. I do want to touch on the very challenging and difficult and emotional issue of how we were trying to bargain for our retirees in the course of our bargaining. Now, of course, legally we are not a bargaining